Why do Buddhists not believe in God? Exploring Buddha's wisdom. For many, the concept of God, whether a singular, all-powerful creator or a pantheon of deities, forms the foundation of religious belief. In most major world religions, the idea of God shapes not only the understanding of the universe, but also the way people relate to life, death, morality, and purpose. But when we turn to Buddhism, an ancient and profound spiritual tradition that has influenced millions, we find a different perspective. A question that arises time and time again is, why don't Buddhists believe in God? Is Buddhism rejecting the existence of God, or is there a deeper philosophical reasoning behind this view? In this video, we'll journey into the teachings of the Buddha to explore this question. Understanding the Buddha's life and spiritual. To understand Buddhism's view on God, we need to go back over 2,500 years to the life of Siddhartha Gautama, the man who would become known as the Buddha. Siddhartha was born into royalty. In what is now modern-day Nepal, he lived a sheltered and privileged life, never exposed to the harsh realities of the world. However, one day, venturing beyond the palace walls, he encountered what is often referred to as the four sights: an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and an ascetic monk. These encounters deeply unsettled him, as he realized the inevitability of suffering in life. Siddhartha abandoned his life of luxury to seek the truth about human suffering. His journey took him through years of extreme asceticism, but he eventually realized that neither indulgence in worldly pleasures nor severe self-denial could bring him closer to the answers he sought. He found a middle path between these two extremes, and after deep meditation under the Bodhi tree, attained enlightenment and awakening to the true nature of existence. From that moment, he became the Buddha, the awakened one. The Buddha's practical approach to suffering. The Buddha's teachings are centered on one primary goal: the cessation of suffering. He wasn't concerned with metaphysical questions about creation, divine beings, or an eternal God. Instead, he focused on addressing the fundamental condition of human existence: suffering, or what he called dukkha. He believed that the key to overcoming suffering lay not in worshiping or appeasing gods, but in understanding the true nature of life, the mind, and the self. One of the central teachings of Buddhism is that of impermanence, the idea that everything in life, including our thoughts, emotions, relationships, and even our own bodies, is in a constant state of change. Nothing is fixed. Everything is transient. This concept extends to the universe itself, which is in a perpetual state of becoming. Given this worldview, the idea of a permanent, unchanging creator becomes less relevant. Impermanence and the nature of reality. In Buddhism, impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It teaches us that clinging to anything as permanent, whether it be material possessions, emotions, or even the idea of a fixed, unchanging God, leads to suffering. The Buddha understood that attachment to fixed ideas, including the notion of an eternal, omnipotent being, could distract people from understanding the true nature of their own minds and the ever-changing nature of existence. Instead of seeking comfort in the idea of an external deity, Buddhism encourages us to cultivate awareness of the present moment, to see reality as it truly is: impermanent, interconnected, and ever-evolving. The Buddha didn't deny the existence of gods altogether, but he saw their role as limited. Gods, too, are subject to the same laws of karma and impermanence that govern all beings. Self-reliance in the path to enlightenment. One of the core principles of Buddhism is self-reliance. The Buddha emphasized that enlightenment and the cessation of suffering are achieved through personal effort, not through divine intervention or grace. Each individual has the ability to follow the path to awakening by cultivating moral discipline, practicing meditation, and developing wisdom. This path is known as the Noble Eightfold Path, and it serves as a practical guide to ethical living and spiritual development. Right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Buddhism teaches that no one, not even the Buddha, can walk this path for you. You must take responsibility for your own actions, thoughts, and choices. Unlike many theistic religions where salvation or liberation may be granted by a higher power, in Buddhism, liberation is something each individual must attain for themselves through insight, discipline, and wisdom. Non-theism in Buddhism, a practical approach. It's important to clarify that Buddhism is not atheistic in the sense of rejecting the existence of all gods, but it is non-theistic. This means that the existence of a god or gods is neither affirmed nor denied. It is simply not central to the Buddhist path. The Buddha did not concern himself with questions about the origins of the universe or the existence of a supreme creator, because such questions were seen as distractions from the primary task at hand: understanding and overcoming suffering. In some branches of Buddhism, particularly in Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions, there are gods, bodhisattvas, and celestial beings who play important symbolic or mythological roles. However, these beings are not seen as omnipotent creators. They too are subject to the laws of karma and rebirth. Their existence is often symbolic, representing various aspects of wisdom, compassion, or enlightenment. The Four Noble Truths, practical wisdom. The Buddha's teachings are focused on the Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of Buddhist wisdom. Life is suffering, dukkha. Suffering has a cause, attachment, and desire. Suffering can be overcome. There is a path to end suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. These truths address the core issues of human existence, why we suffer and how we can overcome that suffering. The Buddha's wisdom is not theoretical or abstract, it is deeply practical. He did not encourage his followers to engage in endless debates about the nature of God or the origins of the universe. Instead, he offered a clear and direct path to inner peace and liberation, one that focuses on understanding the self, practicing mindfulness, and developing compassion. Compassion and interconnectedness. At the heart of Buddhism is compassion, the recognition that all beings are interconnected and that our happiness is bound up with the happiness of others. The Buddha taught that we should extend kindness and compassion to all living beings, not because of a command from a higher power, but because it is through compassion that we free ourselves from hatred, anger, and greed. This focus on interconnectedness and the shared nature of suffering reflects the Buddhist understanding that the universe is not governed by an external deity, but by the laws of cause and effect, known as karma. Each action we take, each thought we cultivate, shapes not only our own lives but the lives of those around us. Conclusion. The Buddha's Path to Awakening. Welcome to our channel. Today we delve into a profound question: why do Buddhists not believe in God? Join us as we explore the philosophical and historical context behind this intriguing aspect of Buddhism. Buddhism, founded over 2,500 years ago by Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, offers a unique perspective on spirituality. Unlike many religions, Buddhism does not center around the worship of a creator god. Instead, it focuses on the path to enlightenment through self-realization and ethical living. To understand why Buddhism does not emphasize a creator god, we must look at its historical roots. The Buddha was born into a Hindu society where gods and rituals played a significant role. However, he found these practices insufficient in addressing the fundamental problem of human suffering. After years of ascetic practices and meditation, Siddhartha Gautama attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. He realized the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which form the core of Buddhist teachings. These insights focused on understanding the nature of suffering and the path to its cessation rather than divine intervention. Buddhism teaches that all phenomena arise due to dependent origination, meaning everything is interconnected and arises from causes and conditions. This principle negates the need for a singular, omnipotent creator. Instead, it emphasizes personal responsibility and the potential for each individual to achieve enlightenment. Another key concept in Buddhism is anatta, or non-self. The Buddha taught that what we consider the self is merely a collection of changing phenomena. This challenges the notion of a permanent, divine soul and shifts the focus to understanding the transient nature of existence. While Buddhism does not worship a creator god, it does acknowledge the existence of deities. These beings, however, are not seen as omnipotent creators but as part of the same cycle of rebirth and suffering as humans. They serve as symbolic representations of various aspects of the path to enlightenment. For Buddhists, the absence of a creator god means that spiritual practice is centered on personal growth and ethical living. Meditation, mindfulness, and compassion are key practices that help individuals cultivate wisdom and reduce suffering in their lives and the lives of others. In conclusion, Buddhism's non-theistic approach offers a unique path to spiritual fulfillment. By focusing on personal responsibility and the interconnectedness of all life, it provides profound insights into the nature of existence and the path to true liberation. Have you ever wondered why Buddhism, a religion with millions of followers worldwide, doesn't seem to subscribe to the traditional concept of God? It's a question that often perplexes those unfamiliar with this ancient philosophy. Today we're going to embark on a deeper exploration of the Buddhist understanding of divinity, or perhaps the lack thereof. Buddhism, rooted in the teachings of the Buddha, offers a unique perspective on the nature of reality and the path to enlightenment. Let's unravel the Buddhist concept of God and explore why it differs significantly from the traditional Abrahamic religions, delving into the philosophical and historical context. Historical context. To understand Buddhism's unique perspective on divinity, we must first examine its historical context. Buddhism emerged in ancient India, a land rich in diverse religious and philosophical traditions. The Vedic religion, prevalent at the time, was polytheistic, recognizing a pantheon of gods and goddesses. However, the Buddha rejected this approach, seeking a deeper understanding of the nature of reality. The Buddhist concept of reality. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy lies the concept of anatta, which translates to no self. This challenges the traditional notion of a permanent, unchanging soul or self. Buddhism posits that everything, including our perceived identity, is impermanent and constantly changing. This fundamentally differs from the idea of a soul or spirit that exists independently of the physical body. Another key Buddhist principle is karma. This refers to the law of cause and effect, where our actions have consequences that shape our future experiences. Karma is not a divine judgment, but rather a natural law of the universe. Finally, Buddhism emphasizes dependent origination, which explains how everything in existence is interconnected and interdependent. This challenges the notion of a singular, omnipotent creator. The absence of a creator God. Buddhism does not posit a personal God as the creator of the universe or a judge of our actions. This contrasts sharply with the traditional Abrahamic religions, which emphasize a God who created the world and interacts with humanity. The Buddha is revered as a spiritual teacher and enlightened being, but he is not considered a divine entity. He is seen as a human who attained enlightenment through his own efforts and teachings. Buddhism places the emphasis on individual spiritual growth and liberation. The goal is to understand the nature of reality and overcome suffering through one's own practice and wisdom. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. The Buddha articulated the Four Noble Truths as a framework for understanding suffering and its cessation. These truths are 1. The Noble Truth of Suffering. 2. The Noble Truth of the Origin of Suffering. 3. The Noble Truth of the Cessation of Suffering. And 4. The Noble Truth of the Path leading to the cessation of suffering. The Eightfold Path is the practical guide to achieving enlightenment. It encompasses ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. By following this path, individuals can overcome suffering and attain liberation. In conclusion, Buddhism offers a unique perspective on the nature of reality and the path to spiritual liberation. It does not subscribe to the concept of a personal God as the creator or judge of the universe. Instead, it focuses on individual self-discovery, ethical conduct, and the cultivation of wisdom. Buddhism's emphasis on self-reliance, interconnectedness, and the impermanence of all things sets it apart from traditional theistic religions. If you're intrigued by the Buddhist approach to spirituality, I encourage you to explore further through meditation, reading Buddhist texts, or attending a local Buddhist center. In conclusion, Buddhism's non-theistic approach doesn't stem from a rejection of God, but from a focus on personal spiritual development. The Buddha's wisdom shows us that the path to enlightenment and the end of suffering lies within each of us. It is a path of mindfulness, compassion, and self-realization guided not by belief in an external deity, but by a deep understanding of the mind, the heart, and the nature of reality itself. If this video has helped you understand the Buddhist perspective on God and the Buddhist teachings, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Buddha Lens. Let us know your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Subscribe for more Buddhist wisdom. Buddha Lens.